A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
This is an occasion of great significance for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints throughout the world. Dating from October 10th, 1880, when John Taylor was sustained to succeed Brigham Young as prophet, seer, and revelator, and president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
It is proposed that the first presidency sustain Russell Marion Nelson as prophet, seer, and revelator, and president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
It is a remarkable blessing to serve in the Lord's true and living church with his authority and power. The restoration of the priesthood of God, including the keys of the priesthood, opens to worthy Latter-day Saints the greatest of all spiritual blessings.
A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
Now, may I voice a concern? It is this. Too many of our brothers and sisters do not fully understand the concept of priesthood power and authority. They act as though they would rather satisfy their own selfish desires and appetites than use the power of God to bless his children. I fear that too many of our brothers and sisters do not grasp the privileges that could be theirs. Some of our brethren, for example, act like they do not understand what the priesthood is and what it enables them to do. Let me give you some specific examples. Not long ago, I attended a sacrament meeting in which a new baby was to be given a name and a father's blessing. The young father held his precious infant in his arms, gave her a name, and then offered a beautiful prayer. But he did not give that child a blessing. That sweet baby girl got a name, but no blessing. That dear elder did not know the difference between a prayer and a priesthood blessing. With his priesthood authority and power, he could have blessed his infant, but he did not. I thought, what a missed opportunity.
A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another, unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid. A person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. There is no Trump ICE 2025 news for you other than the waltz dance. So we'll go on to part 2 of Russell Marion Nelson for his Solemn Assembly Conference, April 2018. Continuing on with the theme of authority. Mormons, what gives you the audacity to claim you're the one true church on the face of the earth? Yeah, I gave it to you as authority. You claim to have authority. So, as missionaries, you claim you've been given authority to be missionaries, to go around the world and tell people their religion is wrong. Why would you want them to join yours if theirs were true? You are telling people they're wrong. Their beliefs are wrong. Their church's authority is wrong. That's what you're telling people. I don't think you fully understand this, as you get all sad when people reject you and slam the door in your face. This is why nobody wants to hear they're wrong, right, Mormons? Exactly. And so it's necessary for everyone to understand how authority works. Because it's the same for everything, not just for religion, but for business, government. Authority is an essential establishment in order to maintain order, so that there's no confusion, no contradictions, no serving of two masters. Authority has to be established. And so for government, there are numerous forms of government. As Trump took over, oligarchy became the key word, spoken of by all the press, as if they were all zombies reading from a script. Oh, they were reading from a script, weren't they? It's like we didn't learn from the Sinclair scandal under the first Trump administration. That was a hilarious video that somebody assembled together. It even covered the local Utah news. They too were zombie brainwashed. And so, understanding that religious authority works and functions the same as corporate authority or government authority, that should help you understand how it's supposed to work for religion, and thus fact check this church to make sure it's true, so that you're not going around lying to people and offending them with lies. You kind of need to know that you are true in order to tell other people they're false. Wink, wink. And so you go to human resources for a corporation, well, generic, and you give them your resume, and they say, oh, okay, you're an expert to be our janitorial custodian. Oh, okay, great. And so as such, you are assigned a certain level of income to start with, and you are given keys to the building for your authority as janitor. And so, yeah, you can get into the CEO and corporate board's offices, but you don't have keys to access the computer, to access the desk, to get access to the files and the corporate documents. If you were, it means you broke in or hacked the computer, and thus you are tampering with the documents with no authority to do so, and thus you are committing an act of sabotage. You are an imposter claiming to have authority which you do not have. You stole the authority. You only have authority to clean the offices. That's it. Real simple lesson on authority. And so, authority in religion is referred to in the same manner. Keys represent authority. And so, Oaks, as I've got set up, prepared to yet again explain to you that you cannot give your office, your job, to anyone else, thus the keys, unless directed by someone above you who has the keys to grant you authority to give someone else the keys. Because you are responsible if someone else who doesn't have authority gains access to the other offices and commits some kind of corporate fraud, scam, scandal. Very simple. And thus, for succession, the president of the church, just like a CEO of a corporation, and that was in the news yesterday, Tesla is deciding as to whether or not to remove Musk as CEO. They have the authority to make that decision. Kind of sucks for Musk, but same way for religion. There has to be an authority process for succession. And the way the church leads us to believe is that when the president of the church dies, the president of the Quorum of the 12 takes over as the president of the church. Unfortunately, even church historians working at BYU know that that's not supposed to be true. But they won't tell you. Except she did. Is she still working there? Is she? She said that a guy like me could be the president of the church. And I said, no, it's always the one who's the president of the 12. No. And so, this is the church's claim to authority. So that Nelson, now as the president of the church, has all the keys and authority to delegate them to those below. And that's why missionaries are believing that they have authority to go and preach the gospel, to tell other people they're wrong, and have no authority. Did you ever fact check as to whether or not Nelson has the correct keys? How do you know? This church claims that Joseph Smith is our founder. Did you go all the way back to Joseph Smith? How did Joseph Smith get authority? What makes him the leader of our church? How was his succession to be? Was it the president of the 12? So that if Thomas B. Marsh didn't do the affidavit to Governor Boggs and continued to be the president until Joseph was assassinated, would Thomas B. Marsh be the legitimate successor? See, this is where it's important to understand that he who has authority gives directives, gives commandments. Those commands are supposed to be followed. They're not supposed to be ignored. They're not supposed to be reinterpreted as guidelines. Good advice. Something to think about. They're supposed to be followed, similar to government. The United States of America, after declaring independence from King George, developed the United States Constitution, in which Articles 4 and 6 tell us we are supposed to be a constitutional republic, not a democracy, not communism, not fascism or any other kind of authoritarianism. even oligarchy. When people don't follow the laws of those who are the original founder, you are cooing that government authority. And so it is vital for Mormons to make sure that this current process is authoritative, that Nelson is legitimately the president of the church. Because otherwise you could be deceived by a false prophet who's stealing your money. And keeping you in bondage. No Mormon should be upset and offended with any of this. For a Mormon to be upset and offended already means that you don't care about authority. You're an anarchist. For you, authority is those who hold the power over others, who are holding people hostage in bondage, which means the church isn't true. Saw an episode of Bones yesterday where the deep state tried to murder Seeley Booth, sent in Delta Force to take him out, and he took them out with the help of Bones. And in talking to a guy who was a part of the secret combination, the guy said that the founding fathers did not want a democracy, which, yes, true, but that they wanted only the elite to select representatives to tell the people what to do. Wrong, because he justified it by saying that's what the Constitution is. No, I just went over it with you. Articles 4 and 6, yes, constitutional republic. But also, in Article 6, all government representatives are to swear an oath to the United States Constitution to treat all citizens equally, to not make laws favoring groups or individuals or entities, that laws must be general to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Thus, Roe v. Wade was a coup by SCOTUS being overturned because it went against the 14th Amendment, Section 1. Hey, LGBTQIAPO+ also covered in there. Hey, all those of a different color than white folk also protected by the 14th Amendment, Section 1, to clarify what it means to be a citizen. Hey, it means that women, not sperm, have rights. And yet, it's been overthrown. The laws of the land have been destroyed by those who are in the position of authority, but violated the commandments of the law. Just because you're in the authoritative position does not mean that you can destroy the establishment of the law. Likewise, Nelson, he cannot go against the keystone scripture, the Book of Mormon, nor can he go against the keystone founder, Joseph Smith. Everything must be a branch off from them, not a hinge pointing or a complete break. A break off rather than a branch off. And thus, what is referred to by us to other people as to why they don't have authority. They broke off from the founding truth of authority. And therefore, they have no authority as a break off. And so section 43, Joseph Smith is talking to the elders of the church who think they know better than Joseph. And he says, there is none other appointed unto you to receive commandments and revelations. None else shall be appointed unto this gift, except it be through him. Joseph Smith is the one to designate how succession is supposed to be, to appoint another in his stead. And he says this is a law for you, that you receive not the teachings of any that shall come before you as revelations or commandments. And he says that he does this so that you may not be deceived by them. Authority is crucial to get right. You can't just flippantly say, well, I was born and raised in the church, therefore the church is true. And all the rest of the world who were born and raised in their religion are false. You have to run the test. You have to make sure that this church, claiming to be by Joseph Smith, did it correctly. Because what he's saying there is, elders, quorum of the 12, you don't have authority to lead the church. And so, where in Scripture does Joseph Smith designate who's supposed to succeed him? Does he? Because if he doesn't, then the church falls at the end of Joseph Smith. And so if people want to continue a religion, they'd have to form their own, not claim to be a succession, because they're a break-off, because Joseph failed to teach his replacement. First rule of leadership, train your replacement. So yes, section 107, verse 22. Of the Melchizedek priesthood. We have Aaronic and Melchizedek. So no Aaronic priesthood holders, which in Joseph's day were adults. For Aaronic. Not little 12-year-old, now 11-year-old deacons under Nelson, because Nelson made the change. Now can be 11 years old. I don't think that Joseph established the ages for the Aaronic priesthood. Pretty sure he didn't. We can check. I could be wrong. Ooh, only one for 12 deacons. And again, I say unto you, the duty of the president of the office of a deacon is to preside over 12 deacons. I don't see 12 years of age to be a deacon. And sorry, that was not Joseph's designation for ages. I can do it again for 14 for teachers. 14 teacher 0 16 priest 0. Joseph Smith did not establish ages for the Aaronic priesthood. Somebody claiming authority when they don't have it designated those ages. Thus, Nelson, by saying deacons can now start at 11, wrong, you have no authority. Oops, we didn't even get to verse 22 yet, and already I destroyed this church. So, of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3, not 1. The quorum of 70 has 7 presidents. Joseph Smith is saying 3 presiding high priests, chosen by the body. Upon Joseph Smith's death, Joseph Smith designated in 1835, when he gave this talk, to the newly formed Quorum of the 12 in 1834, and their 70, because Joseph Smith had a different administration than we do here currently, that all of the Melchizedek priesthood holders were supposed to gather in a special Melchizedek priesthood meeting and cast a vote for 3 to become the presiding high priests. Did that happen after Joseph Smith died? Don't make excuses. Don't try to make other claims. Don't go against the founder if you are claiming to be a succession from Joseph Smith. Yeah, this church is not true. Sidney Rigdon, not true. Joseph Smith III, not true. That salamander, not true. Yeah, that's why this church got fooled. Thank you, Stanford, for Oakes' talk about that. With no video from BYU. Apparently, they didn't want anybody to know about it. Kept it a super sacred secret, and it was only published in the church website. But yeah, this church failed. James Strang, nope, sorry. Nobody had authority because they didn't follow the scriptures by the one who had the authority and the keys to designate his successor. This is what Oakes just told you in that video clip I've got planned to put at the beginning of the video. Brigham Young is not authorized This is Brigham's religion. He's the founder of this church. And, dear God, the United States of America shut it all down and was never reincorporated. Heber J. Grant only incorporated a corporation for the religion that didn't exist. This church is a fraud. This church is criminal. See what happens when you don't have authority? And yet, Mormons get upset with critics when it's Mormons who didn't bother to run the test. The one simple, basic test. Even ex-foes don't even do it. But there are members of the church, especially those in the priesthood, who read over the priesthood sections of the Doctrine and Covenants and go, wait a minute, this isn't how it's being done. See, if Brigham Young wanted to start his own church, that's perfectly fine. But he didn't do that. He didn't write his own scriptures. He didn't write his own Doctrine and Covenants. Because the only ones he claims to have is the one about where he says that he has authority to take Mormons to Utah, the valley here. That's it. That's his one and only one scripture. He has others, but he forged those to frame and blame Joseph for them. Section 132, for example. Section 115, 116, 117, 118, 119. All Brigham's. But he said they were by Joseph. So the Church of Brigham Young contradicts Joseph's. And critics know this. Section 115, that was not the name of Joseph's church. Section 116, Joseph Smith didn't go to Adam-on-Diamond and designate it as Adam-on-Diamond. That was the Danite headquarters that Thomas B. Marsh narked to the governor of Missouri for. Section 119, yeah, that wasn't Joseph Smith's economy. Tithing. And section 132. Yeah, Joseph didn't practice polygamy. He published monogamy. And so what ex-foes think they are clever about is believing that section 132 was by Joseph Smith, as Brigham Young claimed it is. And therefore, Joseph, by raping little girls and marrying other men's wives and raping them, and having multiple wives, therefore was violating his own law of monogamy. Keep telling Joseph you should have published one more before 1844. After 1840, you should have published another Doctrine and Covenants. That would have thrown a monkey wrench in Brigham Young's eventual plot and would have given us some other cool scriptures that we'd have to wait until the church came out with the Joseph Smith papers, in which on the front of it says it's the authoritative source for all things Joseph Smith. Yeah, they understand. He's our founder. or supposed to be. And thus, he has authority. He has keys. And yet, Brigham Young doesn't. And despite this, the church, instead of coming out with a revised scriptures to complete and correct our canon, to restore the original Book of Mormon, to have Joseph Smith's original Doctrine and Covenant scriptures, including his additions, removing Brigham's. Church can't do that, can they? Because this church's claim rests on the succession claim that they're the legitimate successors. And so they can't tell you the truth. So the whole Saints volumes, lies. See, now the church is confessing in volume 1 that Joseph Smith is an adulterer, and it's okay. It's not a sin. Do I need to go over those scriptures? And Mormons stay in the church believing this by someone who doesn't have authority. You've been deceived. You've been conned. And you don't care. Oh, Mormons, Mormons, Mormons. And so, his talk for the priesthood, part 2. Let's see. It is a remarkable blessing to serve in the Lord's true and living church with His authority and power. He doesn't understand power. Authority. Your exercising of your authority determines your power or lack thereof. We all know this. We all get taught, right? Do they not do it anymore? That when you give a blessing, priesthood holders, that you say by the authority, not by the power. The restoration of the priesthood of God. Oh, he finally says it right at the beginning and then botches it the rest of his term. The restoration of the gospel. Including the keys of the priesthood. Authority. Opens to worthy. How does he define worthiness? Oh, right, section 119. Pay up. You have to pay to be worthy. And, of course, believe. Latter-day Saints, the greatest of all spiritual blessings. See, this is where his power is being exposed as witchcraft. And then let's see. Some of our brethren, for example, act like they do not understand what the priesthood is and what it enables them to do. And then he gives a blessing, or gives an example of a father's blessing. I attended a sacrament meeting in which a new baby was to be given a name and a father's blessing. The young father held his precious infant in his arms. Oh, he said precious. Gave her a name. Oh, little Wes. My kids were special because I was their daddy. Just Emma did not get me. And then offered a beautiful prayer. Anybody familiar with Beam and Moat? A witch's spell is no different than a prayer from Christianity, from this church. But he did not give that child a blessing. That sweet baby girl. Oh, he's using adjectives. Oh, so tender. Got a name, but no blessing. My kids got a prophecy. That dear elder did not know the difference between a prayer and a priesthood blessing, and we shouldn't be calling it a blessing, because the blessing is the consequences that result from obeying the priesthood holder's words. This is where everybody gets it wrong in this church. With his priesthood authority and power, no authority, he could have blessed his infant, but he did not. You see how he's defining blessing? I bless you that your eyes may see, your nose may smell. That's not a blessing. That's a spell. That's magic. Abracadabra. By speaking, I create. No. Priesthood authority means you get inspired under your authority keys to grant access for other people. And so I can give you examples from my life. Little Liz. She was starting to drink from a bottle and get the simple basic Gerber baby foods. And Stephanie was concerned. Melissa kept throwing up the milk. She didn't know what to do. And so I, being the priesthood holder, which she even demanded, you're the priesthood holder, fix it. Be nice, women. So I asked, because I was inspired. As the priesthood holder, having the keys over the family. As she, being the equal partner, was not getting inspired. So I asked, what percentage of milk is it? Well, it's the whole milk, not the 2% or 1% or skim. Try using a lower percentage of milk. She obeyed, and Melissa was blessed because she didn't throw up the milk anymore. That's how a blessing is supposed to work, which is why it shouldn't be called a blessing. The results of obeying the words that a true authorized priesthood holder gives to a person, when followed, will produce the blessing. Do what is right, let the consequences follow. And Nelson failed to teach this one basic authoritative lesson to the priesthood because he doesn't have the authority over the elders. You must be authorized, because when you are a break-off, all you get is corruption. You are incapable of producing truth. Real simple. And so, as I caught on, after explaining how that one father did not give a blessing, he then says at the end, "Tonight I invite you literally to rise up with me in our great eternal brotherhood when I name your priesthood office. Please stand and remain standing. Deacons, please arise. Teachers, arise. Priests, bishops, elders, high priests, patriarchal 7? Oh, patriarchs. It's an S, not an A. 70s, apostles. Now, brethren, will you please remain standing and join with our choir, our chorus. Choir, isn't it? Because chorus means something else. A chorus line. I need to check this. This is bugging me. Chorus. Definition: a part of a song that is repeated after each verse. The chorus line. What the hell? With our choir in singing all 3 verses. Rise up, O men of God. No blessing. He doesn't give a demonstration. He does in another conference in October, and he botches it. I bless you that you will repent. And I do the videos, and you get upset. He's the living prophet of Jesus. You don't ever get it, do you? Authority. It's real simple. And so, before I close this video and forget, Joseph Smith tells you the authority for the head of the church. And he also gives his alternative selection for successor, by the way. We'll get to that too, because it's footnoted here in verse 91 to the alternative, since they failed to do conclave. Mormon conclave. Ooh, I should probably put that in. So, Mormon YouTube employee, if you actually listen to my videos, I understand you had an earthquake yesterday. Conclave. Sucks to be you, now that I know where you live. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church. That's Joseph. Joseph says that you are supposed to have conclave and select 3 presidents. 3 presidents. 3. And to be like unto Moses, the Jewish Christ, Messiah ben David. Joseph Smith is Messiah ben Joseph. 2 Nephi chapter 3. Which means that your actual Christ is after the learning of the Jews, not Christians. So it's not Jesus. Because Jesus, according to Christians, was born during the Roman period of time and failed to save the Jews, but gets a second chance for a second coming, but nobody knows the day or the hour of his coming. And Nelson, oops, because he has no authority. He's preaching a false Christ to deceive you. What the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith teach us is that Joseph Smith is our founder as Messiah ben Joseph of the Jewish tradition. We are the fulfillment of all scriptures, prophecy, and days and hours. See, Joseph's church knows the day and the hour of the coming of our Christ, who comes after Joseph Smith, because Joseph Smith is to be assassinated by the enemy, who's going to take over his church without authority and turn it Christian. The future Christ would be a Mormon, born and raised in the great and abominable church. And he would have the keys of the head of the church, Moses. By birth. And you will know him because he will have the gifts, not the titles. Gifts. Remember, blessings are the results, not the title of being a priesthood holder. I give you a blessing by laying on my hands on your head. No, you're not giving a blessing. You're giving inspiration that, if followed, will be a blessing because of the consequences. To be a seer. There's Joseph's authority from the first, second, Kirtland visions. Numbers chapter 12, verse 6. Aaron and Marion are forming a coup against Moses. the Lord comes down to the tabernacle and says, I designate my prophet in visions and dreams. Seer. Revelator. Mormon, chapter 8, verse 33. Time, day and hour. Date. Translator, Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian. Prophet, predicting the future. Not a title. The words that Nelson speaks as a prophet title does not mean they are a prophecy. He is not predicting the future. He will never predict the future. None of these titled prophets will ever predict the future. They tell us they won't. They will not give us the day and the hour. They will not predict the future. And they claim, no man knows the day or the hour of the coming of Jesus. But the Jews gave us the day and the hour of the coming of this guy in the future after Joseph Smith. And it already came and went. Is he here? How will we know him? So that we may burn him as a witch, like Joseph is a witch. See, September 6th learned about the rock and a hat and some other stuff, holiness to the Lord parchment, and other people making claims about those. So they believed that they were true and tried to reconcile with the church to harmonize because they were faithful Mormons. And so in order to do so, they had to say, well, Joseph is a witch. Jewish! You racist bigots. Nobody understands it because they're not using Jewish interpretation. Holiness to the Lord parchment was for astronomy for revelation. Day and hour, time, date. That's why we have calendars and clocks. Revelation. The Jews gave us dates of the coming of their Christ, who would be a Mormon. And this is how you judge him. This is how you're supposed to judge Nelson, and all the way back to Brigham. If you didn't use the first one for authority. You have these others for backups. To again confirm, yeah, he's not authorized. This church denies the gifts, power of visions, astronomy, translation, and predicting the future. They themselves claim they will not do it. They will not. They deny the power of the priesthood and turn power into witchcraft. Church is not true. Run the test. It is confirmed in numerous places. There is nothing true about this church. And then you begin to understand why I mock this church. Why I am constantly condemning this church. I was not supposed to, I gotta do the clips of this one first. Why I expose this church when they get leaked by a little sister missionary who has no authority, but is so cute.